Hello and welcome to the channel again. This is Sam trying to spin to win on Zwift. Today should be an exciting race. It's actually the Team Swedish Zwifters Club Championships today and I'm in category B. And it should be a long race today. We're actually doing the first 66 kilometers of the France Classic Fondo course. So this should be a fun and competitive race. Now that I think about it, on second thoughts, let's drop the fun part. It should be a competitive 66 kilometers of pain. But before we get started, I must apologize for the lack of content.
I am very, very sorry.
So, I've been under the weather for what feels like 5 or 6 weeks. And I decided to take 4 or 5 days off completely over Christmas to see if I can finally shake this bug or whatever it is that I'm having. So I'm not that much riding or racing due to that. But while I still have a cold, the body does feel better. And I thought it was time to dip my toe again into some racing. And while I would have loved to have done the FRR race series that's currently underway, I thought that maybe 7 or 8 days of intensity in a row wouldn't be good for me right now. But I just couldn't pass up the chance to have a ding-dong with my Team Swedish Zwifters teammates in today's club championships.
Let's get it on!
So this is a scratch race today for the category B riders in the Team Swedish Zwifters. I'm not sure who picked this course. I may have to have a few choice words with him or her later, but we're doing the first 66 kilometers of the France Classic Fondo course. And unless I'm mistaken, that means that we're gonna go up the Petit KOM twice, and you know how much I love that darn hill. And to add further insult to injury, I believe we're also gonna have to do the Acqueduc 3 times. So, should be a long race. My guess, an hour 45 at least. So, yeah, it's gonna be a good test. Let's have a quick look at the competition I'm facing today. This is a snapshot of the Velo ratings just before the race start. It's actually a pretty interesting situation in this race, since I know most of these riders quite well from racing together in the Zwift Racing League, Club Ladder, and other competitions. Just to pick out a few names here though. Martin is a very strong rider and probably the odds-on favorite today. But while he is a decent sprinter, he can be beaten to the line. Per has improved a huge amount in the last 6 months or so, and is now also a very strong rider. And he packs a mean punch. So if it is a bunch sprint, he will certainly be in the mix. Matthias and Marcus are both riders with big engines, and the longer format of the race today will probably suit them, so I would expect them to be there or thereabouts as well. But of course, it's very possible that the winner will come from some of the other riders, as there are some other strong competitors here also. So what are my goals for the race? Now, if I was on top form, I would fancy my chances of placing pretty high. However, given I lack fitness, especially race fitness, I will be happy if I can stay with the front until the end. But at that point, I think others will be stronger than me. But if you're there at the end, well, you never know what can happen. With that, let's get the race underway.
Let's race.
So, as we watched the start of the race here, a bit on my tactics going into this one. First, as mentioned, I know I lack some fitness, so I was not planning on trying anything crazy myself. I just wanted to stay with the bunch and draft as much as possible and save energy. Then, I was hoping to stay with the front up the first Petit KOM without spending too many bullets, if at all possible. And then, depending on how many of us there are left and how I was feeling, I was thinking about potentially having a go at the second Petit KOM, or if I felt that that wouldn't work, then I would try to be there at the end for a go at the sprint at least. Of course, I also needed to look out for breakaways with some of the stronger riders, but I thought it would be unlikely today, given the course is so long, and that anybody would get away in this race, at least until we got to the first big climb. Again, I thought it would be unlikely. Well, we only needed to skip forward just a few minutes before the first attack happens, this one initiated by Kenneth, and it immediately strings out the peloton. While we do bring this one back pretty quickly, Kenneth was clearly motivated to make the race uncomfortable for the rest of us, as he kept putting in digs. Fair play to Kenneth, although I do think these efforts cost him a bit once we got to the business end of the race. We have skipped forward a bit again here, and I wanted to show you one of the other riders in the race that gave this race some color. This time it is Felix who is on the front. He is pretty new to the club, so I don't know how strong he is, but people on Discord kept saying he is a very strong rider, and he proved that today, as he, like Kenneth, kept attacking all the way up to the first climb. But also like Kenneth, I think this may have taken a bit out of Felix, but chapeau again for giving it a good go. Another short hop, and we are now about to go up the Acqueduc KOM for the first time. I believe we still had everyone with us at this point, but I knew that if the pace was high up this short climb, that a few people may struggle a bit. Looking back at the footage, the pace was indeed decent, but not crazy high or anything, and I just wanted to make sure I stayed with the main pack without having to go into the red too much. But as we get to the other side of the climb, I can see that a few people were struggling, and even though the pace lessened after this short effort, I think we unfortunately lost 4 or 5 riders here. We have now skipped forward a bit to the first time up the Petit KOM. Apart from the attacks as mentioned by Kenneth and Felix, not too much had happened until this point. We let Martin drive the bus, and he shut down most of these attacks. Thanks, Martin. I believe we may have lost one more rider, but in general, I feel most of us, maybe with the exception of Kenneth and Felix, were probably in pretty good shape at the bottom of this climb. I was curious to see what kind of pace we would go on, keeping in mind that we have to do the same climb again pretty soon. As I mentioned at the start, I was not going to try anything here. I just wanted to get over with the front pack while spending as little energy as possible. So, as you can see from the footage, I am trying to draft as much as I can all the way up the climb. If you look at my power output at the bottom of the chart, you can see a lot of red. So this was a reasonably hard effort, but I didn't have to kill myself to keep up. And as we go over the top, I still feel relatively fresh, especially since I knew we would likely get a bit of rest afterwards. A couple more riders get dropped here though, Kenneth and Henrik, but a combination of the front group really easing off in the next 5 kilometers or so, and Kenneth and Henrik putting in a good combined effort, actually allowed them to get back to the front. Well done to those riders. That's not often that happens in a race. Okay, we are now at the foot of the Petit KOM again. Man, I hate this hill. Although normally this kind of 5-minute effort is one of my strengths, relative to my other riding abilities, that is. But I am just bored of this climb, as I've done it so many times by now. Marcus is actually a few seconds ahead of the group here, but the rest of the group are being a bit more sensible, and the pace is not that high up the first part of the climb. When we get to around 1.8 kilometers to go, Martin goes to the front, and I know I have to follow his wheel, as I don't want to let him get away if at all possible. He's certainly strong enough to hold that lead, so this is a good wheel for me to follow. But it turns out he doesn't really push the pace, and with around 1.6 kilometers, I decide to up my pace somewhat to see if I can put a bit of hurt into the legs of the others for a bit. And Peter must have had the same idea, and immediately the group is strung out a bit more. I try to grab a bit of rest on the next yellow section, and then I can see that Matthias is pushing the pace. He is another really strong rider, so I get on his wheel as we start the next red section on the minimap. With around 800 meters to go, I decide to push a bit more, and I pass Matthias, and I can tell the group is now getting really strung out. I ease the power a bit as I prepare for the final push. I hit my power up, and I have a pretty good go at the last bit of the climb to see if we can drop a few more people. And as we get to the top, we are now down to 7 riders. In hindsight, I wonder whether I should have gone all out here, as I still had a little bit left in the tank. But even if I would have gotten a small gap, I don't think I could have held it all the way. So I think I made the right decision after all. As we are descending and getting some rest from that effort up the Petit KOM, I'm thinking to myself, what is the best option for me to win this race? I still felt pretty good, and I know there are some strong sprinters in the group of 7, so I convinced myself that I was going to try to go long. But this is a mistake, as you will soon see. So with around 600 meters to go, I go for it. I thought if I went on the last part of the descent, I may pick up enough speed to keep a gap on the rest until the end. But I overestimated my abilities, as usual, and I run out of gas with around 200 meters to go, and there's nothing I can do when the others sailed past me. In the end, I finished 7th, which, given my current fitness levels, I should be pleased with. But I must admit, I was very disappointed with my timing on my sprint today. What a knucklehead move. So, to the results of the race. First, congratulations to Martin for taking the win. He made the bookies happy for sure, as he was the favorite going into the race. Well done. Matthias finished in 2nd, ahead of Peter in 3rd. As mentioned, I finished in 7th place, a few seconds behind Martin. And after looking at the numbers a little bit more, I'm even more disappointed with my decision to go early. If we look at the 5-second and 15-second power figures, I had the highest absolute watts and the highest watts per kilo in the race. Who knows what position I would have gotten if I timed my sprint correctly. Very, very annoying. But you live and learn. On the positive side though, and much, much more important, I actually felt okay today for the first time in 4 to 5 weeks doing any kind of intensity. So I'm hoping I can now hit the ground running and build up my fitness again. I am targeting the next FRR race series. It would sure be fun to be competitive there. Now a few post-race thoughts as usual. Alright, a few post-race thoughts after that epic. That's a long ride, long race for Zwift. So congratulations to all the competitors today for giving it a good go. As far as the race itself went, kind of panned out the way I thought it would. Reasonable pace for the first half, nothing crazy. A few people off the front on occasion, but I always thought it would be raced on the hills and on the sprint, and that turned out to be the case. So I tried to conserve as much energy as possible, working on taking on more carbs during races, and that worked out pretty well today, I think. We get to the first Petit KOM, and I was kind of looking to see what the others would do, especially some of the really strong riders like Martin. And we pushed reasonable pace up. I wasn't too bad, but it wasn't strung out enough to really, see if you could break away with a couple guys. So held off the effort there, saved some bullets. And then on the second attempt up, I think we all went a little bit harder. I certainly did. I had another 15, 20, 30 watts or something up the second Petit KOM. Felt pretty strong today, so that's a really good sign. My body is coming back, I think. But again, it wasn't hard enough to shake everybody off. So as we're going down the hill towards the finish, I'm thinking to myself, how do I win this race? And either I try to go long or wait for the very, very finish. but I think there's some stronger sprinters than me with the people around me. So I thought I'm gonna wait until the very end of the downhill, grab some speed, see if I can get a small gap, and then go all the way. And almost pulled it off. I think I was 100 meters short, which, yes, is a long way. So I wasn't even close, but I thought it was worth a go to see if I could win that way. At the end, finished 7th, and if I would have just waited for the final sprint, I think I would have finished a few places higher, but I thought it was worth a go to see if I could win it. But congratulations to Martin for winning. Clearly the strongest rider among us, no doubt. So well-deserved winner. But really good efforts by all of us, I thought. That's a long, hard race. So hope you enjoyed. I thought it was a great workout, and I enjoyed that race. A lot of good banter, as I said, on the Discord. So yeah, it's a lot of fun going with your teammates. Friendliest race I've ever done, I think. Anyway, this is Sam, trying to spin to win on Zwift, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.